All right, we'll call to order the Board of Commissioners public hearing for October 17th. First off, we'll open public comments for Ordinance 19-007, amending Ordinance 19-002, 2019-2020 budget. Would anyone like to speak about that? All right, we'll open public comments in for Ordinance 19-008, amending Ordinance 18-002 for the 2018-2019 budget. Anyone speak on that? So a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor? Aye. We'll call to order the Kingston Springs Board of Commission meeting. Could everyone please rise and face the flag? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
John, could you call the roll?
Josh Etherly.
Here.
Tony Gross.
Here.
Mike Hargis.
Here.
Jeff Lorenz. Here. Glenn Remy.
Here. All right, we have a quorum. Do we have a motion to approve the September 19th City Commission minutes? There we go.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve the October 17th City Commission agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion passes. Announcements from commissioners. Start with you, Jeff. Do you have anything? Glenn?
I'd like to compliment the city on the great work at Art in the Park. It went very well. So many happy vendors and people walking in. It was a wonderful experience.
Jeff? Or Josh? Mike? I'd also mention that the farmers market ended another great season this year. Good job, John. And then also welcome Jamie to your first City Commission meeting. It's nice to have you here tonight. And I hope you are enjoying your time here so far. All right. Community input and concerns. If you'd like to address the commission, step forward, state your name and address, and you're free to speak.
You need to get out of the chair? Can't hardly move today.
When he gets older as us, he won't be saying that stuff.
Larry Craig, 159 West Kingston Springs Road. I'm here regarding the beer ordinance and a little history behind that. From a personal standpoint, I don't feel strongly one way or the other 24/7 or with hours, but you wouldn't get enough tax out of me on what I purchased to turn the lights on while I'm talking here in the course of a year. But there are other people that you probably do, and I would also say that any revenue you can get to lower my property taxes in Cheatham County and Kingston Springs, then I'm for it. As to expanding hours of sale, we have very high taxes if you got your tax bill today from Cheatham County. So we're at a very high and almost comparable rate to other much larger cities. So if you can get revenue in that regard, then by expanding your hours, then I'm for it. You've got to understand in Tennessee, we're in the Bible Belt, or in the buckle of the Bible Belt, and history of alcohol, beer, liquor goes way back as being very conservative. And for those of you that are much younger and probably don't remember blue laws, there were blue laws all over Tennessee, some of which you couldn't even go into a grocery store and buy anything on Sunday that had to be cooked, much less purchase any form of alcohol. We have folks, unlike maybe you or other people, that don't work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, work long shift hours and everything, so they have an interest in expanded beer sale hours in that regard. Of course, the Sunday closure hours, that all goes back to the conservative viewpoint of the legislature when it was originally passed in Tennessee. Mr. Ivy and Ms. Finch contacted me about the first part of August, I believe it was, trying to pick my brain on how we got to 24/7 beer sales in Kingston Springs. Well, that was going on before my time, but the brief history of it was this was at a time where we had no revenue coming in, and every amount of pass-through sales tax or wholesale beer tax was important. There were only 3 stores, I believe, at that time that engaged in the sale of beer. One of them didn't even sell beer, which was the old Shell station, and it was a auto repair shop also adjacent to that, prior to the building that's there now. That owner didn't want to sell beer, and I don't even know if they sold cigarettes, but then they wanted to sell the business, and that person that wanted to buy the business, a relative, wanted to get a beer license, beer permit. Then that was expanded further when they moved, and we had a few more stores come in. I got hit up. People think I haven't been here doing any city work for 4 years now. They still hit me up and think I know what's going on. I really don't. And one of them was a clerk that works in another store that sells packaged beer, but was at another store purchasing beer, which was the new Thornton's, and he couldn't figure out why on Sunday morning when he was getting ready to go to the game he couldn't purchase beer there when his store was selling it 24/7. Well, the 24/7 came about, and the reason that you couldn't find it in a standalone ordinance was because it was a part of the codification, and there was no prohibited hours of sale in those codifications. In 1977, the code that was in the first code that I know of in effect prohibited sales from midnight to 6 a.m. Then there was an 84 code that did not have those hours in it, but prohibited sales on election day. Then there was another amendatory ordinance that took that out as to election day, and that's when it became 24/7. So if you went to your code of ordinances, the only copy I had available was 96. You wouldn't find any prohibited acts, i.e. the hours of sale. The amendment after that, likewise, no hours of sale, so it wasn't prohibited. Then, when in the 96 code came about when UTNTAS was preparing a new model code for most all the cities, and they came down here with their model code to be marked up by whoever was on the committee at the time, and the city manager, and I was there for most of that meeting, and they had in there hours of sale, which is what they have in their model ordinance, and we said, no, that doesn't apply here because we don't have any prohibition on hours for package retailers. Then you move on to the 2000s, whenever you had liquor stores voted in, referendums thereafter for liquor by the drink, and then the legislature got to changing things as a result of the craft beer breweries that wanted to open up a tap room, and they were selling drinks at their brewery, so to speak, and they were also selling much higher alcohol content beer there. So all this got a little crazy. Then the lobbying in the legislature, who can't make anything simple, and special interests were involved, and we came into the time whereabouts liquor stores could start selling sundries and other things besides bottles of alcohol, and then eventually became able to sell beer. And then at that time, there was a waiting period, and then it came around that they would be governed not by the local beer board, where your authority lies, but by the state. So, you did have 24/7 all along. Some confusion exists under the statutes given the alcohol content. Forever and ever it was 5% by weight. Then after that they bumped it up to 6 or 8 or something like that. And then it's all the way up to 10.1 now. And it's not by weight, it's by volume, ABV. So it gets a little confusing. But the bottom line is, even though there may be a difference of opinion about a reset of local ordinance, you do have the full authority to change it to any hours you want. But if there was a reset because of liquor by the drink, then this is a way for you to clean it up. So that's a little bit of the history and the reason you couldn't find a piece of paper in the form of an ordinance that set out hours. It's because it wasn't listed as prohibited matter of conduct by a permit holder. Now, I'll warn you that there's also AG's opinion that says you can no longer differentiate hours on on-premises consumption beer permit holders. That would be a beer joint. I'm not talking about a place that sells liquor by the drink as well, as opposed to the same license, type of license that you regulate by hours for package stores or convenience markets or grocery stores. So you may hear more about that. I don't know if that case has gone to court yet, but that's pretty much the history behind that, so that you know how you got to where you are today.
Thank you.
My name is Bob Sanders, 225 Woodlands Drive. Most of you know me, have known me a long time. I can expand on anything that he said. Malt Beverage Association and lobbyists for the beer industry have also told me the same thing. You can adopt your own rules on what you want to sell and when you want to sell beer. That law that was enacted, we were very proactive for the city and put signs up. I do represent a beer company, as most of you know, and we were proactive in putting the signs up for you. But also, to go along with that, you can establish your own rules. I don't think some jackleg just said 40 years ago or 30 years ago. I've been here 40 years, I guess. Some jackleg just decided we were going to sell 24/7. And it seems as if Larry explained that. So the intent of the law was to make it an even playing field for malt beverage consumption as well as high alcohol or spirits consumption. We don't have any spirit locations that are open till 24/7. Most of them are closed at 10:30, 11:30 at night. So when you go to the liquor by the drink stores, I don't know of any that are open past 10 o'clock. You might correct me, but I don't believe there are. So I strongly advocate that you consider going back to the way it was, the revenue that it was bringing in. In all the years that I've been here, other than maybe some of my annex, I've never seen it be a problem. I have one other issue I'd like to bring to your attention, and I'd like you to look at this. Just start studying it. It seems as if we've got some people that are doing VBRO or bed and breakfast locations in our town. And one of my neighbors complained about a party going on at a house in the Woodlands that is a VBRO. And I don't know if they're supposed to get permitted or not. I think you've got, if you go on Facebook or you go on some of the other social medias, you'll find there's 15 to 20. Some of them are Airbnb, and I think they're probably better because most of the time in an Airbnb, there is a resident living there that rents a room. Not always, but sometimes. But one of my neighbors, I think people think I'm an advocate because somebody wrote a story about me, and I'm not. But she told me to bring it to your attention. Nashville's come to us. Noise abatement, it seems, was a big issue for her that night. I said, why didn't you call the police? That's what they're there for. Well, you know, it went on for 2 nights. I said, I didn't hear it, so I can't. So anyway, I think it's something you might want to study as far as permitting these places, and that's all I've got. But I appreciate the job you do, and anything we can do as a beer company to help you as we have in the past, just let us know.
Thank you. Department reports, is there anything from departments?
Yes, we have 2 new employees. I think you've received an email about Michael Wilson. He started roughly 2 weeks ago.
Met him a few, yeah.
And then Sydney Starnes started Monday. She came to us from the parks, state park system. She was over a ranger for the summer over at the Narrows of the Harpeth. She has a lot of rope rappelling and that type experience that'll benefit the fireside. She's very interested in doing the fireside as well as the police and first responder. She went through an abbreviated course at the academy. Unfortunately, that does not count for her 12 weeks of the post, so she and Michael both were hoping to get into the academy in January. So you should see Michael and her riding with the various officers. They're changing up, so they're not Virginia set officers. But I think that both of those will be a real benefit to the town.
Great.
Wonderful.
Any other departments? Randy, you got anything?
No, sir.
All right. Not me. John?
No, sir.
Legal?
No, sir.
All right. On to unfinished business. Item A is second reading of ordinance 19-007, amending ordinance 19-002, 2019-2020 budget. Debbie, anything to add to this?
I don't have anything to add.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve ordinance 19-007 on second reading?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Call the roll.
Josh Heatherly,
Yes.
Mike Hargis,
Yes.
Tony Gross,
Yes.
Glenn Remick,
Yes.
Jeff Lorenz.
Yes.
All right, item B is second reading of ordinance 19-008, amending ordinance 18-002, 2018-2019 budget. Do we have a motion to approve ordinance 19-008?
Motion. Second.
Second. All right. Call the roll, John.
Josh Heatherly,
Yes.
Mike Hargis,
Yes.
Tony Gross,
Yes.
Glenn Remick,
Yes.
Jeff Lorenz.
Yes.
All right, on to new business. We have a motion to reappoint Bob Sanders and Ginger Hockenberger to the Kingston Springs Board of Zoning Appeals. New terms will be from November 2019 to November 2022. And Bob always likes to ask if we're giving him a raise, and that's why we're doubling it.
Do I get a raise?
We're doubling it again. So there you go.
I'll make a
Do I
motion.
get insurance with that? I'm retired.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Item B is first reading of ordinance 19-009, amending Title 8, Section 1 of the Town of Kingston Springs Municipal Code to indicate the sale of off-premises beer shall be allowed to be sold 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Would you like to go through some of what we
Sure.
went through in this process
Sure.
to come to where we are?
So what happened is so the town of Kingston Springs got liquor by the drink, and apparently the town had been selling beer 24/7. And as Larry had mentioned, there's been tons of changes in the alcohol and beer law. It's something that's ever changing. And so when Kingston Springs got liquor by the drink under 575301, then we had to comply with the sale of hours as was set by the ABC, which the ABC hours, which ABC is Alcoholic Beverage Commission, their hours are actually different than what TCA says. So then you have to go to the ABC's website, look at their rules and regulations and see what the hours are. So when we adopted liquor by the drink, then it automatically applied for on premises as well as off premises. Now, there is a provision, then the hours went from 12 on Sundays to 10 to the ABC. You can opt out and not start at 10 and start at noon. But then also under 575301 is you can establish your own hours as the beer board, but you have to have an ordinance. So when liquor by the drink came about, we did not have an ordinance that set those hours, and that was done after liquor by the drink. And so that's what this is for. So then when we had change of liquor by the drink, and John and I came up in some discussion, I don't even remember how it came up, but I was like, we can't sell 24/7 because you have liquor by the drink now. And so it's my understanding that the board wanted to at least look at going back to what you were selling was 24/7, and that's what this would allow to do. And this would be for beer and not high gravity beer at the 10.1 or whatever the change is. This is only what you would consider your Bud Light, your regular beer products, and it doesn't include any holidays. The board can certainly tweak this the way that you want, or you can do it exactly as it's written. Now, there's a difference between on-premise and off-premise. So this ordinance has that on-premise would be as the same hours as established by the ABC, and off-premise would be the 24/7. Now, there is an AG's opinion and says that typically off-premise and on-premise are treated the same, but there's not an actual rendering of an opinion or any kind of cases that says that it applies to the sale, the hours of sale as well. I've talked to Alicia Hodge with MTask. MTask has rendered a couple of opinions, and it's funny, in the opinions they kind of address the hours of sales, but then they say, well, we'll have to get back with you if that applies to on-premise and off-premise. And Alicia Hodges has never really gotten back with me. She's like, there's really no cases or anything else. I've also talked to legal with the Alcoholic Beverage Commission, Josh Stapp, and he's kind of implied, well, they're typically created the same, that they're supposed to apply to the same laws. But again, there's no case law, there's nothing on point. So I did make a difference on here for the hours of sale for on and off premise. But again, it's up to, this is kind of a model for you to look at, and it's the first reading, and we can make whatever modifications that the board wants to.
Do we have an on-premise beer sales operation? Would that be like the pizza place?
That'd be the pizza place, the filling station.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. All right, that's what those are working. Now, but is that not covered if they sell just beer? Then it's off. It's on premise.
Correct.
If they sell beer and liquor, then it's liquor by the drink regulation.
Right. So.
Right.
Right. So this would only apply to what the beer board has authority for.
We don't have any authority over that.
That would be correct. So that's kind of why, I'm like, well, you can't say that on-premise and off-premise are the same when it comes to hours, because we don't have control over a lot of it. And so it's kind of this convoluted mess when you get liquor by the drink, because then ABC controls typically your restaurants. We control your markets. We still, there's certain things we issue beer permits for, and certain things, if you want a liquor store and you sell beer, you don't have to come to the beer board to get a permit. You're just automatically
excluded. Yeah.
Right, and so that's why, to me, it's a little bit of a convoluted. And since there isn't an opinion, Martha Burke and I talked about this. I think since there's nothing that says specifically that you can't have separate hours for on and off, we kind of designated. Now, truth be known, there's probably not an issue because nothing, I don't know what time, like the filling station, I guess that's really your only true
Don't serve
serve liquor.
liquor.
And I don't know what
They
time
don't
they
have line or
close.
liquor.
Yes.
They close when the singers are tired.
They
So-
do
They
do
do
closing.
I get wine from next door. They don't have
Yeah, I think it's
wine.
11.
March after
So I do have a question about the language, because I don't, should we be concerned, because it says the off